What's up, everyone? I'm Johnny.
And I'm Elliot.
And welcome to the Sport Mind Avenue podcast, the intersection of all things currently happening in sports and the psychological impacts it can have on athletes and the community.
And if you want to learn more about how to improve your mental understanding of sports, or you just wish to view more podcasts like this one, then go check out mind-designsports.org and get your head in the game.
On today's episode, we introduce our newest team member, Ben. The legendary Tim Tebow returns to the NFL, and we're also evaluating tackling in youth football. But on top of this, we have a brand new segment presented by our new member, Ben's Breakdown. Also, we have our first ever fantasy draft, so stay tuned for that. What's up, boys? How are we doing today?
Good.
Doing well. Can't complain.
All right, for starters, this is Ben. So, Ben, do you want to say anything real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm Ben. Thanks for having me on the new show. I'm really excited to join. I'm Ben. I am currently going to be a junior at Butler University in Indianapolis. I am a sports media major and a StratCom minor. So, I've gotten the last 2 years, even with COVID, I've gotten to work a little bit behind the scenes, behind the camera, and learn some new stuff. I am originally from New Hampshire, so I am a huge Boston fan. My dad had season tickets to the Patriots growing up, so I've been going to Patriot games since I was like 6 years old. But yeah, I'm a huge Boston fan. Take pride in all four. Yeah, I mean, is there anything else you need me to?
No, if you're all good with that, that's what we'll use.
Yeah.
All right, so to get into the topics today, the first thing I want to talk about is the return of Tim Tebow. So for those of you that don't know, Tim Tebow is a former college legend at the University of Florida. He went pro for the Denver Broncos, ended up winning a playoff game before getting replaced by Peyton Manning. He bounced around a couple more teams and then left football and ended up picking up an MILB career for the New York Mets. He's also been an analyst on the SEC Network for College Saturday, and he is now apparently the tight end for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So what do we think about this?
It's something that should have happened years ago when he was in his prime playing football. I agree. When he was playing for the Patriots, they offered him a role in a position on the team to continue playing for them if he switched to tight end. And he said, "Nah, man, I'm not doing that. I'm going to the minor leagues." And that's I
remember it vaguely. It was 2013, and they signed him, and I remember being like, I think he was on the Jets for a year. The Jets didn't use him well, and he didn't have very good accuracy as a quarterback. Great athlete in college. He was a great college quarterback, but I just remember, the Patriots brought him in, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, Tom Brady was still in this peak of his prime playing at Tom Brady level. He still is today, but
10 years later, he's still there.
He's still there. But I remember bringing him in, and I remember saying the same thing. Like, he's such a good athlete. Why put him he's so big, athletic, put him at tight end. And I remember saying he was refusing. He wanted to stay at quarterback. And I remember he didn't end up making the team. But I think, that was the year that Aaron Hernandez, I don't know if you remember this, got arrested. That was that year he got arrested, got put in prison, pretty much for murdering people. And Gronk was there, but Gronk, was ups and downs with injuries. So Tebow could have been his second-hand man, and it's too bad that it took him 8 years, and now he's joining with the Jaguars. I think maybe the reason why he's maybe joining the Jaguars is because it's Urban Meyer. Anyone ever think of that? Urban Meyer, maybe?
Yeah.
That's what I think, too. But it's honestly like, why now? Why, like, you're 33, you have a great job as an SEC analyst, and you're still going down as a college football legend. Sure, you didn't have a great NFL career as a QB, but why do you want to make the switch to tight end at 33? I really don't get it. No shot. That dude's media presence is second to none.
I mean,
the average tight end age during peak performance is anywhere from 22 to 26, and he's 6 years or more past that. So I don't know if he's going to make a huge impact for them, and I think he just wants the media clout of, like you said earlier, them being around Urban Meyer. I mean, they were star-studded cast together back in Florida in their heydays, and now coming back together and rejoining, I think that would just make a media presence even bigger.
Yeah, and I also kind of want to go ahead, Ben.
No, yeah, sorry. I mean, he just touched on it. I mean, Tim Tebow. I mean, he's just like you said, his media presence. I mean, I don't remember in 2011 when he was on the Broncos. I mean, everyone. It was like Tebow mania. I mean, the guy was viral everywhere, and this was like even before like Instagram got big and Snapchat. So this was but it was everywhere. I remember. Like in analysts, like they actually thought, like people actually believed, like, because he actually took the Broncos to a pretty good winning streak, I believe,
Yeah,
right?
He won a playoff game.
He won. Yeah. He beat the Steelers. He beat a great Steelers defense. That was that was back when the Steelers had Paul Malu, Harrison, James Harrison. They had a bunch of Dick LeBeau was the defensive coordinator. I mean, they had a great defense, and Tim Tebow played probably his best game of his career like that day.
That's facts.
They caught him.
Yeah, well, when it comes to choosing between Tim Tebow and Peyton Manning, I think the choice is pretty clear, regardless of how you feel, right? So I also kind of want to touch on, the opinions of maybe the tight ends or wide receivers that get passed on for Tim Tebow, like as a bigger media presence. Like, there's a lot of mental impacts on them that can really just mess them up. Like you talk about their ego, that's taken a massive hit. They're struggling to figure out, why is Tim Tebow getting a starting job in the NFL over me, right? Like, that's a bit ridiculous in my eyes. As much as I love Tebow, it's just not a good thing to be doing. So,
I mean, what will happen if he shows off and he does well? Do you think he'll have another shot at another signing contract, another year? Or you think it's all for show?
It depends. We'll have to see it, honestly.
I mean, you look at it this way too. This came up in my head just recently. Like, look at it this way. Maybe what the Jaguars are going to do is, have some fun, with Trevor Lawrence as their new QB, Urban Meyer's the new coach. I mean, they have James Robinson, an upcoming star on that team. And the Jaguars, as bad as they were last year, I told this to my friend, they have a lot of upside on the offensive side of the ball. The receivers are pretty solid. And with Tim Tebow, he might not even be a great tight end, but, what if they use him in the red zone? What if they use him as a wildcat quarterback? I mean, he could be like a kind of a Taysom Hill 2.0 in Jacksonville. Like,
that's true.
That could be a potential idea that the Jaguars could use going into the season.
I mean, if he shows off, I would love nothing more than seeing that. But if he's just there for a media presence, like, you got to understand why you see these NFL athletes on Twitter projecting how they feel about it. And I'm sure all the other ones behind the scenes repressing all their emotions, not wanting it to be seen that they're actually pissed about this. Like, it's just going to be a roller coaster until we see exactly how Urban Meyer is going to end up using Tebow in the long run.
I'm sure Tebow knows coming into it that he's not going to be the star of the team past probably the preseason. And after that, I mean, I'm pretty sure they still have Tyler Eifert, who's an all-star tight end, and I don't think he's going to try to get time reduced due to Tim Tebow coming on the team at 33.
I mean, we'll see, honestly. Like, I'm just not really sure how it's going to work out, especially when you have, honestly, it seems like more hatred than positivity with him coming in. It impacts a lot of players' self-efficacy when you see someone with a great media presence may overshadow a truly good NFL player who's just not getting his chance. So it can definitely impact your self-efficacy if you're the one that's getting passed over.
Yeah. I mean, again, Tim Tebow is someone who, I've been watching since I was 7 years old. And like you said, I mean, it really, if I were a tight end, a tight end that was, not like, at least good enough to be on a preseason team or training camp team. I mean, yeah, I'd be frustrated. And this guy, he's never played a snap of tight end in his life, probably. I mean, he might have in high school or youth football, but has Tim Tebow ever played tight end? Probably not. So, again, I think mentally, if you're a player who hasn't gotten signed yet, a tight end who has not gotten signed yet, I mean, you got to be frustrated. You got to be thinking, like, I'm better than this guy, and I can go out there, I can block, I can catch. Can Tim Tebow even do that? We don't even know because we haven't seen him play yet. So I mean, it's frustrating for players who have not been signed yet, or probably they're not going to be.
Yeah, this is definitely a story that we're going to need to keep watching as we see it develop, especially going into the preseason, seeing kind of how he's using the offense in preseason games. Then going into the actual season, will we see the Wildcat? Will we see him running routes at tight end? What are we going to see with Tebow? And how is this going to impact the Jaguars in the future? Like, we just don't know. We just know that as of now, there's going to be a big presence at the Jaguars training facility with media and reporters and all of that, because this man brings in the crowds.
For sure.
So the next thing I want to talk about today is, I don't know if you guys seen the Twitter video that's been going around. It was of the two little kids doing like the Oklahoma drill, and the one just got absolutely drilled. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I mean, actually, it took my mom, who's a big Steelers fan, so she follows James Harrison, and I love James Harrison too. He's a great player growing up, and listen, James Harrison had the reputation, back in that 2000s football, hard hitting, boom, before
He's a killer.
he got popular, and James Harrison was the one to post on his Instagram of that hit, and I saw that, and I could not believe, like, to see that in my eyes, like, these coaches are letting this happen. They're letting kids, after all the studies, after, youth football, trying to make even youth football safer again. And after all that, these coaches are just watching these kids headbutt each other. Like, what?
It's another thing to post it on Instagram too. That's something you'd see off of like a meme page or Sports Center or something like that. But he's a professional athlete. And he shouldn't be promoting, these childhood athletes that they're still in their developmental stages, and when your brain's not fully developed, if you get some type of brain damage as a child, you're not going to be able to heal from that as easily as you can in the long run.
Yeah, I'm all for big hits at the pro, the college, the high school level. Always been about it. I loved having big hits when I was younger, but it's starting to pose the question: how young is too young to be doing this? Like, these kids look like they're 6 or 7 years old max, and they're getting like knocked around. Yeah, they're getting hit like an NFL player. So it's really, like, it's honestly concerning that the coaches are just letting this happen at such a young age. Like,
as a parent too, you're seeing this? Your kids, are you seeing this? Like,
I'm probably not seeing it.
Exactly. Like, what?
I'm home, they're like, "Oh yeah, what did you do at practice today?" "Oh, we did some hitting drills." Like, no, say anything.
I remember back when I used to play, all of our practices were closed, so none of the parents got to watch what happened. And then the coaches would end up using like different conditioning approaches, where if you did this drill hard and you hit hard, practice ends early. You don't have to run at the end. There's no extra stuff. So, like, it's clear to see kind of why these kids are hitting as hard as they do. Now, we don't know if that's the actual situation, but that's what would happen back when I played. So I should be something that gets talked about a little more, especially with that going as viral as it did.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when I played as well, I mean, there was a thing we'd have, we start, and same thing with you, Johnny, you'd probably, the first week you probably did conditioning, get your, just no pads or just helmet and just nothing else. So as we were slowly getting them, we do shoulder pads. And then once we went to full uniform or full pads, I remember every year a coach would read, even back when I was a kid, like in the 2011, 10, when the concussions weren't taken as seriously, I remember he'd read like that warning, like, this helmet is not used as a weapon, it's just used to protect your head. And they would teach us how to tackle and everything. It wasn't like go out there and headbutt people. Yeah, you could get away with it back then a little bit more than now. Now you just get ejected and you're screwed now.
Yeah.
But it's just at least my youth football coaches when I was a kid were even them were worried about No, you can't. You can't headbutt people. You can't. You don't lead with your helmet. You lead with your. You tackle low. You wrap. You. That's how you tackle. You don't go by your helmet. You don't spear. And that's what that kid did. He speared that kid. So
He's also a child and he hasn't been trained, obviously not properly, like you're saying.
yeah.
And that goes out to all the coaches out there. Like, make sure that you're training your kids properly, because what they do at a young age, they'll continue to do at an older age. And if you practice perfect, you'll play perfect.
I'm going to be honest. I honestly thought he was dead when he got hit that hard. He did not move for a couple seconds, so I was a little concerned. But, you can't touch on hitting without touching on CTE, right?
Yep.
So, the discussion's going to start coming in. The mental damage it can cause in the long run, especially when your brain's not developed yet at that young of an age. Like, you're going to start feeling some impacts of that as you grow up.
And for those of you who don't know what CTE is, it stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And it's basically your head gets filled up with these fluids after you get hit a bunch of times, and it causes your brain to slowly fail. And you can't be treated for CTE until you're dead. And they can look and open your brain up and look inside and stuff. But you can be diagnosed through different symptoms, like problems with your memory or thinking. You can get confused a lot after you've been hit multiple times. Your personality starts to change, and the biggest factor and the most important factor is that you get extremely aggressive, depressed, and even suicidal.
Yeah. And you just touched on that. I mean, a lot of bipolar. You can be very bipolar. I've seen. And, if you watch the movie Concussion, you see that in a lot of the athletes. Like they can't, like Mike Webster. They can't wrap their head around what's going on. Like 1 minute they're talking happy, the next moment they're having a gun to their head, because that's what's happening. Is your brain is so unstable, like you just said, and you don't know what's going on. I mean, another example is quarterback Jim McMahon on the '86 Bears team. I remember when I was hearing there would be days he said he couldn't even remember his own family, his own kids. I mean, that's the kind of effect that CTE can do to you. And the deepest and worst athlete we've seen in our lifetime is Aaron Hernandez, a guy who had a lot of issues, before, growing up, just to begin with. And then all this, after he, took his life and they opened his brain up, I mean, it was the worst CTE they've ever seen in an athlete, right? I'm pretty sure, even his lawyer was like, damn, we could have used this against, the judge and everything. We could have used this against everyone. And he couldn't, they could have at least helped him a little bit, But like you just said, you can't diagnose that until you're dead. So officially.
Yeah, and also with that, a lot of people, unless you've worked with that guy for a long time and you know his moods, you won't even know that he's been changing, or he's slowly becoming more aggressive or more suicidal, because you don't know what he was before the CTE really started setting in. It started to cause problems in his life. And that goes out to any athlete who has had CTE. I mean, I've been hit in the head a lot of times, so I don't know if that's ever going to come back and bite me, but that's some things that you also have to plan for when you're an athlete, especially when you're doing, I played lacrosse. I got hit all the time, and you just got to make sure you fall properly, get hit properly, and you be a respectful athlete when you're hitting people, because you want that to happen to you.
And, I think this can also be looked at from two different perspectives as to why these athletes keep hitting as hard as they do. And you look at your social influence, right? Growing up, then, if someone wasn't hitting hard, they got messed with the rest of the team, right? Because I know that happened with me. So the social influence that are on these kids today, where if they're not the hard hitters, they're getting made fun of. They're asking, what's up? Why aren't you hitting at all? And that's definitely something that's going to be an issue to try and break in the future, because these kids they want to go out, they want to have fun, they want to do their thing, and they want to hit hard. And it's up to the coaches to be look, you guys can hit hard, but don't hit each other hard on the same team. Avoid head-to-head hits, avoid spearing, all that stuff. And that brings me to my next point, which is the external locus of control. So, yeah, there's that social influence from your peers, but it's a whole nother thing when your coach is encouraging this. So that external locus of control basically sets it up to where the coach decides what drills you're running and how hard to run it. So if you're just a 7 or 8-year-old and your coach says we are going full contact, full speed, hard as you can hit, that's going to lead to these kind of head injuries or just injuries in general you can't afford at such a young age. I think those are two big things that people need to start discussing as influences towards these issues.
Yeah, just because your coach says you should do something doesn't always mean you should do something. Like, you can see your coach usually as a father role or a mother role, depending on what sport. Mm-hmm. But doesn't mean that they're always right or that they're always in even the right headspace to do something. You don't know what's going through the coach's mind or what the coach has done in the past or what even he did when he played football. I mean, the game's a lot different from then, whether it be 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. And the game's completely different. It's changing. It's morphing.
Yeah. So before we move on to our next topic, I want to share something that is important to us. So our company that publishes our podcast, Mind Design Sports, is partnered with the Concussion Legacy Foundation. So we donate all of our money to this organization who helps athletes with CTE through a helpline, education, research programs. And you can donate to this by going to mind-designsports.org/support and following the information on the page. It goes a long way to helping those athletes that have been severely affected with brain issues. And, it's just a good thing in general to help support. You see how bad it can get with Aaron Hernandez and Mike Webster. And we've set our mission basically is to help prevent this in the future. So if you want to help us, go to mind-designsports.org/support. That is mind-designsports.org/support to donate today. So now that we said that, it's time to get into our brand new section called Ben's Breakdown. So Ben, take it away.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm really excited to talk about a couple of things. So the two things that I'm really, for this first week, that I really want to talk about is heating up. The first one is being fans in stadiums. More Americans each day are getting the COVID shot. Whether you like it or not, a lot of them are forced. A lot of them are just getting it just so they can enter things. The mask mandate is slowly ending in a lot of states. In my home state of New Hampshire, it ended. So a lot is going on with sports and how stadiums are being ran. And last year, some states like California, Massachusetts, they weren't even letting fans in until, February. But now, every city, even the strictest mayors, the strictest governors are slowly letting fans in, and more and more each day. So, as I was saying, this year the Rangers, it's going to Major League Baseball because this is an outside activity. So this is where you'd think there would be more fans, and that is the case, actually. So the Texas Rangers, I don't know if you guys knew about this, April, it was a big controversy, They started the season with 100% capacity, full capacity, fans, it was a full stadium. And so far, I think it's been going pretty well. My home city, the Boston Red Sox, a little bit more stricter, however. They only let 12% of people enter Fenway Park. Fenway Park is a lot smaller of a ballpark, obviously, but just the last week, our mayor lifted it to 25%. So, what I'm trying to say is, what do you guys think? It's interesting to see how each city, each organization, each team is handling, well, how many fans can enter a stadium, and what do you guys think?
Well, I don't think there should be like a set limit on fans in here. Pretty much, if you get vaccinated and you can pass a COVID test, you should be able to go to a sporting event. There shouldn't be any 12%, 25% limit. Like, if you can pass and you don't have COVID, you can go to the event. End of story. Like, that's just the way I see it. Yeah. I think it's a bit ridiculous that they still have these caps on. Yeah. Now, obviously, if you're not vaccinated or you have COVID, then obviously you can't go, right? So if you can pass the test, if you can show that you got the shots, let them in.
Well, yeah, and that's what's interesting to say. It's interesting you're saying this because I've actually read an article by USA Today, and I was reading this yesterday. The problem is actually is as exciting as having baseball back and fans in stadiums, baseball's already struggling enough bringing in young fans our age. And I love baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys like baseball. Is baseball my favorite sport? No. Here's the thing. Baseball was the favorite sport of many people. A lot of our grandparents in the 60s, 50s, early 70s.
Sport of
Baseball was
America.
America's pastime. And the thing is right now, what the article was saying was, a lot of the fans are old, retired people. They're not young people. And yet again, if that's the problem with limited fans, is if the MLB wants to have a good future, they need to draw younger fans. And by having a limited capacity, like you just said, and many young people are vaccinated now. I am vaccinated, and you guys might not be. But the thing is like, they should be, like you said, there should not be a limit at this point. If you have a vaccination card and you're good to go, you should be able to enter a stadium. I mean, I don't think there should. I mean,
Yeah.
do you want to go on, Elliot? Here, yeah.
I want to see the NBA Finals at full capacity.
Full capacity, yeah.
That stuff is nuts. When I don't know who it's gonna be, but I think the Jazz are probably gonna get there.
I hope so.
And then Mitchell coming back, Spligak from the 3 to end the game. All the fans start jumping up, going haywire. It's gonna be crazy, and I miss that.
I know, and that's the thing is
Same with the virtual fans.
I was watching hockey last night. I'm a big hockey fan as well. I played ice hockey, and the Boston Bruins are my favorite team. And they're playing the Capitals last night, and in a hockey game too, it's like so electric. And there's so much noise. Like people waving their towels, and I mean there were fans there last night, but the Capitals beat us in overtime. Even when they scored, it was like there was no excitement. There was no fans. There were fans, but it wasn't the electric noise that you hear when a team wins in overtime in a playoff game. You know what I mean?
I might be wrong, but I think in when you're playing hockey, like you can't hear the fans, right? Because the screen protects.
Oh yeah, you don't hear a lot. I mean, you can sometimes, in a high school hockey rink, sure you're gonna hear people, but like in an NHL rink, you're not gonna hear people. I mean, you can hear people bang on the glass. It's as a fan, it's cool because I think hockey's actually the easiest, other than basketball, is the easiest sport to really see players up close. Like they're literally right there on the boards. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's really.
I mean, I could see basketball games get impacted by the fans. Like you can't hear anything. All the noise travels down, impacts all the players. So they're shooting a free throw. You have people screaming in front of them, like banging their bangers and just making the scene crazy. And I don't know about you guys, but I miss that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I miss
I
it
do
too.
Just
too.
as much as I missed the game when it was gone, I miss the fans because fans are something that makes the team.
I mean, so I was saying, keep going into more of the fans and anything. I mean, the thing is like even the MLB's commissioner Rob Manfred, he even said, I mean, when the Rangers did the full capacity in April, he was like, I love this. This is good. And the thing is he said it himself. He wants all 30 MLB teams to have full capacity by midsummer, which is like All-Star break, July. That's what he wants. And I think if the commissioner of baseball wants full capacity, why can we not have that? I get we're trying to, I get it. Last year, totally different. No vaccine. There was no, we had to be careful. I mean, we were all at risk, especially the older people. Even if we got it, we were fine. We gave it to our grandparent. They could get really sick. So, but now that all these older people are vaccinated, and even those middle-aged 40 to 50-year-old, 30-year-old people are vaccinated, why not? Why can't we just if teams really want to make a choice, pull out your vaccination card, because I have one upstairs in my room, get it out. Let these people in. I just, like you said, the commissioner of baseball wants it more. I mean, why, even him? What happened,
Yeah, I kind of want to bring it back to that article a little bit, right? So you see how the MLB is struggling to get younger fans, but
Yeah.
as we saw in 2020, it's clearly becoming more fun to play baseball again. All the bat flips, the celebrations, everything's going crazy. There's more drama than ever. Like, with the fans coming back eventually at full capacity, you'll be able to get these younger fans to fall in love with the game. You go there, you witness the atmosphere for a playoff game. There's nothing like it ever. Like, I'm vaccinated. I should be able to go see a Yankee game whenever I want.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous that there's still a cap on a bunch of these places.
The ticket prices are expensive. Like, again, you want younger people to come to the ball. I mean, it's not MLB commission. It's not Rob Manfred's fault. I guess he wants full, but it's these owners. If you want your team and your future to get going, just let it go. And like, you got to get younger people in the ballparks, because this article was really saying that these last 2 months, it's just all older people. It's older. I mean, I'm looking at the Red Sox team right now. I don't see many young people there. It's old people.
And the thing is that the most at-risk people are the older people. And if you're older and you still haven't gotten your vaccine, then you shouldn't be going out, and that's on you. For the rest of the younger people, we're most of the spreaders and the more contagious people. We shouldn't be going there unless you're vaccinated, and unless we can get proof of your vaccination. It should be treated like your passport. You need that to go places. And I mean, I walked into CVS for the first time without my mask, and it was this thing ever. I had everyone like giving me weird looks, and I'm like, "You want to see my card?" Like, I swear I'm okay. And I feel like it's gonna be weird for a while, especially like I am, as you guys can tell, I'm a huge NBA fan, and everyone, when you're in an NBA game, everyone's literally cram-packed together in those courts. And that's what makes it even better, because when they hit that shot, you go up to the next person, you start shaking them, you start screaming.
Yeah. You're just saying, everywhere. You're saying exactly what I was about to bring up. Another thing in the article that I read about was a lot of fans and players even have said this, again, more like baseball or any sport. Fans psychologically, I mean, you miss going looking behind you. You don't even know the damn person, but all you know is he's cheering for your team. You give him a high five, you're hyped up, and everyone's happy. You can't, like, I was at even like an NCAA tournament game in Indy, and I'm sitting there by myself. There's no one on my left, there's no one on my right, there's no one in front of me, there's no one behind me. I mean, it's exciting to be there, but no one to like talk to, give high fives to, like, and as a player, players have said it themselves. They miss, like, being a baseball player. I remember growing up, David Ortiz and he's retired now, but him, sitting in the dugout, and he would talk to the fans. The players can't even be near the fans. They blocked off, like, football games, baseball games, they blocked off that. Like, they block up the seats by the sideline or the bench or the dugout.
I don't think it'll be something that gets changed like quickly to where we'll be able to go to 100% capacity stadiums, but hopefully within the next couple months, places start to realize, like, everyone's starting to get these vaccines, like, let's let them in if they have them. It doesn't make sense that we're just banning them because we don't want to have extra people. Like, I don't know.
It's interesting. The last thing I'm going to say, another thing I was going to say is I was actually watching, it was the Twins A's yesterday. And if you guys know who Andrelton Simmons is, the shortstop, he plays for the Twins. And they were saying these announcers were saying how he was, like, really depressed because of, like, how, like, he was, like, literally locked in a bubble and couldn't talk to people. Again, look at the players. What are the players going through psychologically? I mean, and this is what I mean. This is why I brought this topic up. Players themselves, you got to miss fans. That's the whole thing about being an athlete in any sport is like you just said, to go in front of a crowd, home or away. If you're away, go have fun and go against them. And if you're home, get them going. And it's so fun. Like, that's what even me, when I played hockey, when there were more fans there, I felt way more energized. I wanted to go out there and do something effective.
Exactly.
And, that's the problem. I think we're missing that still in sports. We need those fans back in any sport just to get the players going a little bit more. Because I can't even imagine. I mean, when Tom Brady next year, that's just why they better have a full crowd at NFL games. When Tom Brady walks on that field next year at Gillette Stadium as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, what is the reaction of the fans going to be like? That's all the analysts have been saying is like, not even the game. What are the fans going to be like? How are they going to react?
Oh, I got mad chills when you said that.
Exactly. I mean, you get chills just hearing that. And
that's the point, though.
We're what are we? 4 months away from the game, or 5 months away, and we don't even know yet. So, yeah.
I hope by then I think we'll have it a little bit more under control. I'm sure a majority of the people in America will be vaccinated. I hope they will be.
Yeah, I know. So
even if you don't want to do it, like I'm not gonna say I didn't want to do it, but you have to. At this point, you kind of have to do it.
Yeah. And this actually leads into my second topic now. So, guys, we're all big NFL fans here, and the big controversial thing has happened. The 17-game season that Goodell has been trying to do for 5 years now. It's finally happened, and
I love it.
You like it? Okay, so that's interesting that you like it. I understand as a fan why you'd like it. But it's good. Oh, listen, things like this. Listen, revenue is going to go up. Money, more games for fans to attend. That's great. Listen, 52% of the players supported the 17-game season, which is more than half, I will say. Players are going to get an extra salary bonus, which I think is totally fair. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, I always say, why are athletes getting paid so much? And people are like, these guys, they're just athletes, they're just performing. Here's my thing. The NFL is definitely the one sport I get why players get overpaid. And I'll tell you what, you're getting hit every single play. You're putting your body on the line every single play. You're putting your brain and your head on the line every single play. So my only thing about this 17-game season is, what is the injury risk? Not even just of your head, your knees, your everywhere, but CTE. Is this going to be a CTE risk? Is this going to lift the injury chances? What do you guys think of this? Because, yeah, they're going to make more money. Yeah, the players might get paid more. But some of these older veterans, some of these guys, do they really, Tom Brady, do they really want to play another game and another 17-game, an extra game? What's the point,
Well, basically the way I look at it is you eliminate that 4th week of the preseason, which is where your starters get the most playing time before they end up starting the season. So you're essentially just adding an extra quarter to a starter's mindset. So instead of playing that 3 and then resting the 4th and then going into the regular season, you're playing all 4 of those quarters. And there's going to be an injury risk increase, but at the same time, it's not going to be as exponential as people think. It's still just, you're essentially just adding an extra quarter that matters to these starters. If you're a backup, it sucks a little bit. You don't get as much time to show what you're made of. Yeah. But, it's not going to be as vastly big of a change as people believe it is.
In the fantasy world, you're going to have a whole nother week to bounce back.
Yes, you are. As a fan, listen. As a fan, you're gonna love it. You got actually, like you said, you got an extra week of fantasy. Listen, if your team's on the bubble of the playoffs, that 8th, 7th, 6th seed in the NFC, AFC, my Patriots this year, they could be hopefully winning their division, but they could be a wild card team. You want, as an NFL fan of that team too, you're gonna want that extra game. As a player on the bubble, you're gonna want that extra game to make the playoffs. And I get that, and. Another thing is listen, some elite teams, I'm sure the Chiefs, I'm sure the Buccaneers, I'm sure those teams by week 16, 17, Tom Brady might not even play week 17. Patrick Mahomes might not even be playing week 17. So yeah, you can rest some of your, if you're clinched into that one, or you're clinched, you won your division, you got the first round bye. You can rest your players, but so I get it. There could be some upsides to it.
I'm excited to see what happens. It's just another chance for me to add an extra dub in fantasy for sure. But it's also a chance for the Dolphins to, set themselves up as a playoff team, a true contender, and hopefully either snag the division or the wild card. We just don't know how it's going to play out yet. I think it won't be as big of a difference as people make it seem. but it'll hopefully define those teams a little better to where, they're not all like tied up at the end of the season and you have to have either like a play-in game or something like that to figure it out.
Or some fluky, like your team's like what 12-5 and don't make the play like that. Like that's the whole thing. Like
the Dolphins.
Yeah, no, I get you. I mean, I don't know if you remember this. We were younger, but remember the 2008 year, and it was your Tom Brady tore his ACL, and Matt Castle was the quarterback, and the Patriots were 11-5 and didn't make the playoffs. Like that. That's another one. I'm like, come on, like
it's frustrating.
I mean, no, I get it. Are you a big? I didn't know you were a big Dolphins guy. I mean, that's
huge. The heartbreak was brutal.
Oh, I know, man. The AFC was good. This was the first year the AFC was truly the better conference.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's going to be good this year, too. So that 17-game season is going to be good. But and listen, again, 52% of the players supported it. So it wasn't like, players didn't. I mean, I think it was more of an owner's thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always going to be more of an owner's thing. They're the ones that control most things, if you think of it.
Right.
It's not the NFL, I think the NBA is more controlled by the players, but I think the NFL, on the other hand, is controlled by the owners. I do. I mean, it's every sport has its control. It's different who controls it, So, yeah.
All right. So that's it for Ben's breakdown today. The first time. Can't wait to see it more in the future. And now we have our very first fantasy draft. This draft is going to be about the athletes, the best athletes of all time when it came to their mental game. So that killer instinct, the mental prep, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to each pick 5 players. It's going to be a serpentine draft. The order is me, then Elliot, then Ben, then reverse, just how like a normal draft would be. So I guess with the first pick,
you're on the clock.
Team Mondo selects the man himself, Michael Jeffrey Jordan. Air Jordan. What else do I have to say about this dude? He was in everyone's head. He was clearly the best player at the time. The man was just an absolute beast. When it came to preparation, there was no one who met what he did. I shouldn't even have to explain this pick, right? Michael Jordan is definitely the number one when it comes to mental prep.
If you haven't seen the documentary, I definitely advise you go see his documentary.
Yeah,
the work he put in every single day.
That's crazy.
To do what he did,
nuts,
absolutely ridiculous.
The guy couldn't lose. He hated losing. If he lost, he literally couldn't lose.
No,
he had a competitive problem.
If he lost, he had a problem.
If someone even talked, that man took it personally.
Yeah.
He took it personal.
He did.
That's insane.
He used that one that's troubling the bullets, and then remember that, and he just was he said good game to him, and then that was the end. That was the end of that guy. Michael Jordan
over.
Put 50 on him. So,
all right, Elliot, you're on the clock.
With the second pick of this year's NFL draft, Tom Brady.
Yeah,
Tom Brady. That's a good one.
I mean, just look at his stats, man.
He's the Michael Jordan of football.
Exactly.
Exactly.
We're going down the list. He's the best one to ever do the sport of football, and he probably will be the best to ever do it, as long as football's around, before it changes to something else.
All right, Ben, you got 2 picks.
Okay. So, obviously Brady and Jordan were on my top 2, so that's all right. Because my third, I got to go with Kobe, the Black Mamba Bryant.
The Mamba mentality.
That man, Michael Jordan, is the father figure to Kobe Bryant in that case of mentality. But Kobe Bryant, man, he took that to even a better and cooler level on the public level. If you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. He pushed all of his teammates, I think, even more in a friendly way than Jordan did. Jordan was kind of a dick about it, which was great because Jordan still won 6 titles. Doesn't matter, got the job done. But Kobe, man, everyone loved Kobe. Everyone gravitated to Kobe. Kobe Bryant is like an idol to people who don't even play sports. I mean, the man, you saw his impact when he died. I mean, it's It's crazy. The guy, another one, just the mentality. Oh, he remember, he wasn't as talented as Jordan or LeBron, but God, he worked so hard to become what he was. You know what I mean? He had to work real hard.
Just the stories, bro. I mean, I'm sure you've heard all the stories. That man would be there 5 hours before practice and stay 5 hours after practice to keep working. Like, just the stories that these players have told, it's ridiculous. And he would have been my number one if, he didn't mimic his career off the number one pick, right? So,
yeah.
Have you guys seen the videos of it's just like a side by side of Michael Jordan doing a play, and then Kobe doing it too, and it's exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Michael Jordan taught Kobe a lot of like how to do a lot of that stuff he does. Like Michael Jordan was like what he worked with Kobe on, like how to fade away and do all the Kobe, like the iconic Kobe Bryant moves. That was Kobe said it in the documentary. Jordan taught him that, so that's awesome. So guys, Kobe's an obvious. So my second pick. This one, you guys want to be like, what? But I kind of read up on him, and I'll tell you what. Hockey, this is a hockey player. NHL, it's hard. I think it's the hardest sport to win in Cup, just because it's so team-oriented. But my second pick is going to be Mark Messier, and I'll tell you why.
It's a good one.
Man, think of where he was. He won 5 Stanley Cups, which is hard to do as a player. Just win just to win one Stanley Cup is hard. But this guy, he won 4 in Edmonton with Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky, obviously the GOAT of hockey. But Mark Messier was like the leader of that Oilers teams. And then he went to the Rangers. He won a cup in New York. And former players say Gretzky, he was really the figure, the leader of those teams. So I think right there, you got to look at someone like Mark Messier, a guy who's not as talked about because I don't think hockey's I love it as much as any sport, but it's not as big to some, as big as like, they're not as iconic as Kobe or Jordan, but if I had someone on my team, I'd have to have Mark Messier is a winner. So, yeah.
I'm going to have to go with my second pick is the man himself, Steph Curry. One of the greatest to ever do it and his position, respectively. Huge Splash Brothers fan. And if you've seen him, he's already amounted so many records. The fewest games played to reach 1,000 career three-pointers. He would have had 4 titles if it weren't for KD getting injured and Klay Thompson, respectively, getting injured. He's built the best team ever to play in the NBA, ever. Dubs Nation is real. And you know who led that? Steph Curry. He's one of the best shooters of all time, and I think he'll probably be the best shooter we'll ever see in our lifetime. And he came from a basketball background. He one-upped his brother, which is also what he's doing. And he showed why he deserves to be number one. And I think he'll make a run for it in the playoffs, but not until Klay Thompson. He can't carry the whole team by himself. This man's averaging like 40 points a game. And it's absolutely nuts. And I love the three-point shot, and I got to go with him because I love the three-point shot.
I completely understand taking Steph Curry. He was definitely on my list, but for my next pick, we are going to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. Take the man himself, the greatest of all time in my eyes, Mr. Muhammad Ali. This man is the epitome of boxing. His mental abilities in the ring, along with his physical, he was unstoppable. He was incredible to watch, an idol to some of the greatest boxers of ever. And I just don't know what else to say. He's a champion. He was an activist who really spoke his mind about the issues he believed in. I respect him for that so much. The mental impact he had on boxing and just life itself is incredible. So he's my number 2 pick for the roster. And my number 3 pick, this is going to be an interesting one. A little NFL player by the name of Jerry Rice. Someone whose records may never be tested, ever. in my eyes. I don't see anyone breaking him. This man was an absolute beast on the field, was in everyone's heads just by playing the game. His abilities and the practice that he put in preparation to face off against these different corners, safeties, any defensive looks. You've heard all the stories from the quarterbacks he's played with, all the defenders he's played against. Like, aside from Deion Sanders, I don't think anyone could have stood up against him, period. So Jerry Rice is definitely my number 3 pick. He's just unbelievable. The killer instinct this man has makes him the greatest wide receiver of all time and probably a top 3 NFL player of all time. So that's who I'm going to take. So you're up, Elliot.
My third pick, I don't know if you guys even know who he is, but it's Lewis Hamilton. He's a Formula One driver.
Yeah. I've learned a lot about Lewis Hamilton because my friends like F1. I got into it. That guy wins every freaking year. So
everyone, he has 8 world championships. He holds the record for most career wins of all time, most pole positions, most podium finishes, most career points, and most laps led. This man is literally the fastest to ever do it, and in the fastest sport there is. And also, much of you guys might not know, but he is vegan too. This man doesn't eat meat. His training schedule is ridiculous. He does around 5 hours of cardio a day and eats like 3,000 calories, 4,000 calories a day, and without even eating meat. So I've seen him play, and it's amazing. It's one of the best to ever do it. He's the fastest man alive.
Understandable.
Yeah, so this guy just brought up some F1, and maybe that inspires me right now. I gotta change my. I don't know if you guys ever heard this name, F1 driver, not as accomplished as Lewis Hamilton, but this guy. How about Niki Lauda? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
This guy. Listen, watch this movie about him, and he raced in the '70s, and this isn't back in the '70s. Racing was more dangerous than it already is now, and.
He's a cool cat.
He won his mentality was crazy. I watched this movie. He just all he cared about was winning every week. And that's what he did. He won in 75. Then the next year gets hurt, gets an injury, has almost a life-ending injury, almost burns to death. Pretty screwed up. Is in the hospital, has a fractured lung and everything. Comes back and races and still is effective. And he ends up not winning that year because he was out. But then he won again. He won 2 more. He's won 3 F1 championships. And anyone who's not an F1 fan, it's not as big in the U.S. It is maybe the hardest sport in the world. It is so hard to get into. There's only like 15 drivers. It is so hard to win and just be good at it. So
yeah, and the amount of G-forces that you withstand when you're in a Formula One car would make you throw up. And holding the wheel for 2 hours is ridiculous.
You have to have the best hand-eye coordination ever to be good at what they do. And you also have to be the thing is you watch. I've gotten into the sport the last year, and you have to be also very. You have to have good. You have to be conditioned. You have to be healthy. You can't just be unhealthy. You have to be.
Yeah.
You have to be trained. You have to be in shape. So.
There's a reason why Lewis Hamilton wins so much. He's super in shape, and he's very mentally stable.
Yeah. So no, Niki Lauda is someone who I've looked up to now after that movie, and learning a little bit more about him, his mentality, he all he cared about was winning, and that's all, guys. I mean, guys.
And that was back when everyone was just rolling cigs and getting absolutely hammered.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what F1, partying. F1 now you can't party like that. Nope.
You can throw the champagne up, but that's about as much as you get.
Yeah, so this my 4th overall pick. You took Muhammad Ali from me. Again, another sport that I've kind of started to like a little bit more, boxing and just fighting in general. Mike Tyson, come on, I mean, guys, this guy, he was a head case.
Talk about a killer.
He was a head case. He was a head case, but man, this guy, I think, had the quickest punches I've ever seen. He was a killer out there. I mean, the guy got a tiger on his freaking face. I mean, that just says to you enough how much of a monster that man was. He obviously had his life. He had some flaws in his personal life, but man, that guy won so much. He avenged Muhammad Ali, I forget the guy who beat him. I forget what his name was, but he knocked Muhammad Ali out because Muhammad Ali was old and had
Foreman?
Tyson Fury?
Who was it?
Was it Tyson Fury?
No.
Was it Tyson? It was Tyson Fury, I think. It was it was like the vengeance of like Muhammad Ali. I'm trying to figure out. Look it up now, but whatever. The guy is one of the greatest boxers ever. Arguably Floyd's pretty goated too, but Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali obviously is the biggest of them all. But Mike Tyson, man, just as a boxer, that guy, he started training.
Frazier.
He's a monster out there. So.
Fight of the century. After 15 rounds, Muhammad Ali lost him.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, Elliot, your 4th round pick.
Why doesn't he go again?
He just went.
Already did. I got.
I could go back with the other Splash brother. Klay Thompson, the best, second best, or I don't know. I can't even say second best because he's just as good as Steph Curry. And the thing about basketball is you have to know your role. And if a team without players who know their role is a team that's not going to win. And as long as you know, this is who I'm passing it to. This is who I know is going to make the shot. It's not me. I'm not going to keep it and risk me throwing that shot. I got to throw to these guys because I trust them, and they're always going to give me the results I need. And it just sucks because he's the best three-point roll shooter there is in the NBA, and he's been injured for the past couple years, which is awful for his career, for his mentality. Well, having to watch Steph Curry try to take on all of these players by himself is ridiculous, and half that load would be taken off when you have Klay Thompson averaging 25 points a game, most of which are three-pointers, coming off the bench for you, and I just think he's an amazing shooter. I always styled my shot after him and Steph Curry. So
Steph Curry, what he's doing this year, just by himself, is insane.
Nuts. And if he had Klay Thompson, they would easily be a contender.
Title contenders, absolutely. I mean, if they can get one more, not even Klay, just someone else with him, man. I mean, can you imagine? I go to college with a lot of Bucks fans. This is actually can you imagine you put Steph Curry on the Bucks with Giannis or something?
Ridiculous.
Imagine that. It'd be crazy.
It'd be like having Durant back, but a buff Durant.
I honestly low-key think that Giannis would be better in a way because Giannis is a better facilitator, so he would just find Steph wide open for threes. Steph wouldn't even be covered, or you'd have to cover Giannis because Giannis is so good at Durant was a better shooter, better scorer, I guess, than Giannis. But Giannis, I think, does even more of the dirty work than Durant doesn't even do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Durant's skinnier than my forearm, and he's done just to pull off. Probably the second best player we've seen behind LeBron in our lifetimes. But it's crazy. He's so skinny, but. All
right, gentlemen. Let me bring you here. Former NFL player, current Barstool god, the greatest trash talker of all time, Mr. Neon Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Got into all of his opponents' heads. Mental prep was unbelievable. Not to mention his physical abilities on the field. A dude is quite literally the greatest I've seen at his position. There's not much to say other than there's an instinct. If you're a trash talker, this man created that instinct. There is no one like him, no one who could talk like him that has ever touched an NFL field. And that's just the way I see it. You want to talk about a mental game? This man was swimming in your brain throughout an entire 4 quarters.
Hey, that boy's from Northport, Sanders. Shout out to 239.
Yeah. And the last pick for Team Mondo. Shocked that neither of you took him, period. The greatest Olympian of all time. 28 total medals. 23 of them are gold.
Oh.
someone who, if he shows up to your pool, you are mentally checked out of that race. He was so good mentally, he messed with your mentality. Mr. Michael Phelps.
Oh my God, yeah.
How are you not going to take this man earlier in the draft?
I'm
Quite literally,
bite my finger for that one. Bite my finger. That one hurt.
Yeah.
There's
you
not
got
much
it,
else to
man.
say, man. Michael Phelps is the greatest Olympian ever. You can read up about all the stories of the mental prep this man did, all the diets he's been on, all the different exercise routines. This man was a different level when it came to swimming. And that's just all I have to say. Top to bottom, this Team Mondo roster looks quite unbeatable when it comes to mental game. So we'll pass it on to you, Elliot.
I got a tough decision here. Keep me on the clock.
Well, I know who I'm gonna take. He kind of reminded me of Michael Phelps and gave me another name that I cannot. It'd be a shame if I forgot him. But you go, because I know who I'm gonna take.
I don't want to go with another basketball player. With you know who. But I think I'm gonna go with Lyle Thompson. Lyle Thompson is
Interesting.
pro lacrosse player, and he's one of the best. Him and his brother are the best lacrosse players to ever play the game. They're the people that put lacrosse on the map. Constantly having to go out on the field. You're basically playing soccer with a mix of hockey. Getting tossed around with a middle mix of football, getting hit in the head every day. And these guys were the best to ever do it. Both him and his brother. Constantly getting out on the field and putting in the mentality, putting in the work every day, running back and forth, and scoring goals, winning faceoffs. That's how you do it. I got to take him with the sleeper pick because I got to represent lacrosse somehow.
Fair enough.
I mean, all right. Well, the last pick in this draft, and I can't miss this guy. I gotta go with the one and only Cristiano Ronaldo. Think of this guy. This guy is literally the LeBron or Jordan of soccer. The guy is just so good at what he does. His body, the way he trains, all he does is live and eat soccer. I mean, the guy eats well, trains well. I mean, it's crazy what he does on a daily basis, like how he works, and to win 3 straight Champions League titles at Real Madrid, and then to win with Portugal in the Euros, and he scored a goal every game. Because I watched soccer, he scored a goal in every game. It doesn't matter if it was in his prime. He scored almost every goal for Real Madrid. Low-key, the guy scores all the time.
He's a beast.
He just sit there and score. That's all he does. It's crazy. So he's one of the greatest, one of the strongest players out there. Just physically overpowering, like LeBron, physically overpowering on the field. And he's just all around the best player I've ever seen. I mean, Messi maybe a little more skilled, but Ronaldo is just a winner. Just 3 straight Champions League. You can't. That's hard to do. So.
I'm surprised LeBron never got picked up.
Yeah. LeBron to me is a great player, and he was on my list earlier. I don't know. He's someone who I just don't think he's a winner, but he hasn't won as much as Jordan and even Cole.
Yeah, I think that's where I kind of cut him out too. I know this dude's got a killer instinct, and I know he's out here trying his best. You've seen it when he was on that Cavs team that won it all. That man carried the team. But at the same time,
he was a bum. He was a bum at first, and
he's not a winner.
Miami, he joined Dwayne Wade and Chris. Okay, obviously you should win with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, but when he went back to Cleveland, that's why I gained respect for him. I'm gonna say that. So,
I think he's arguably the greatest of all time. People make the comparisons. Physically dominant, mentally, I know he's a great athlete. If we did a top 20, I'm sure he would have been picked.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like the 15 we chose might have that edge just because of their ability to win more than he has. But I can't disrespect the guy.
Yeah, a couple other honorable mentions have to be Serena Williams.
Tiger Woods.
Tiger
Woods, definitely. I mean, we didn't talk about baseball players because they're not as, I guess, well talked about.
Yeah, it's not as mentally draining to play baseball.
But if you look at it, baseball itself is quite literally the hardest sport to play in the world. And if you only fail 2/3 of the time, you're a Hall of Famer. So baseball itself is quite up there as a sport, but there's just no player that's like, you know what, I could put him in instead of like Muhammad Ali or Michael Phelps. Like,
you could do Mike Trout or
but he hasn't won. You know, like he hasn't won anything. That's the problem.
You got your Babe Ruth, he was an alcoholic. You got your Lou Gehrig's or Mickey Mantle or I don't even know. Tim Williams. Those guys are great. You can't tell me those guys aren't great. It's just like
it's just a different kind of mental, I guess.
Yeah, like you can't like Nolan Ryan. I don't know. Like I love baseball. It's a great sport. There's some great we have some amazing legends. Oh, Hank Aaron. I mean, great players, but as mentality, is it there as much as some of the other athletes we mentioned? Oh, Devers just hit a home run. That thing is gone. Sorry.
All right, boys. Well, before we get too deep into the honorable mentions, I would like to wrap up this episode. So thank you guys all for watching. Our social medias will all be in the description of the video. If you want to check out our list, make some comments. It'll all be posted probably either on our Twitters or our Instagram stories. So just let us know what you think. And have a good day.
Thank you for watching this week's episode of the Sport Mind Avenue podcast.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment on our page. And stay tuned for more of our podcasts and exclusive content in the future.